nation's largest abortion provider claims that its mission is healthcare, but then it fired a doctor for not being political enough. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. This is Breakpoint. Back in January of last year, Cecile Richards stepped down as president of Planned Parenthood. She left behind a political lightning rod of an organization plagued by scandals involving the sale of fetal body parts, illegal and underage abortions, and fighting for its millions of dollars in annual federal funding from Congress. Her successor, who took the reins in November, is a surprisingly different person. Leana Wen, a former health commissioner and emergency room doctor from Baltimore, was the first actual physician to lead this so-called healthcare organization in half a century. When her appointment was announced last year, I called on air for Christians everywhere to pray for her, that God would change Dr. Wen's heart, bring her to faith in Christ, and end her bloody work. Well, I'm not sure whether those prayers have been answered in the way that I hoped, but her work at Planned Parenthood has indeed come to an end. In a Twitter post last week, Dr. Wen announced that the Planned Parenthood board had met in secret and then decided to fire her. The reasons for her firing, she said, were philosophical differences about messaging and the future of Planned Parenthood. Well, since then, we've learned a bit more about those differences. There seems to have been some management-style issues, but even more central, as the New York Times reported, Dr. Wen just wasn't aggressive enough about explaining and promoting abortion, at least in the eyes of many at Planned Parenthood. And, in light of new state-level pro-life laws, veterans of the abortion giant wanted a fighter, not a physician. It seems Dr. Wen might have tried to run Planned Parenthood as if it really were a healthcare organization. As part of that, she sought to appeal to people outside of the organization's far-left donor base. And very interesting was a report by BuzzFeed that Wen refused to use trans-inclusive language in her messaging, talking about women's healthcare being for, well, women and excluding men and non-binary individuals. And so, less than a year after hiring Wen, the Planned Parenthood board voted at a secret meeting to fire her. One writer at Slate observed Planned Parenthood didn't fully grasp that by tapping a doctor with progressive chops but no political experience, it was getting a doctor with progressive chops but no political experience. For Planned Parenthood, this will likely mean that the next president will be more of a radically pro-abortion political firebrand. In other words, someone more like Cecile Richards. In fact, descriptions of the interim president are very much in line with this prediction. But here's another question. What will this mean for Dr. Wen? I loved what Abby Johnson, the former Planned Parenthood worker and subject of the recent pro-life film Unplanned, did. When she heard about Dr. Wen's firing, she addressed her directly in a tweet. I know what this feels like. They did it to me too. If you'd like to talk, I'm here. Later, Johnson pointed out something many pro-lifers missed, that earlier this summer, Dr. Wen, already a mother, suffered a miscarriage. In fact, she wrote about it in the Washington Post. Imagine for a second the mental, moral, and spiritual conflict of grieving for a lost child while running an organization that routinely kills children of the same age and level of development. And then on top of it all, they fire you. Now, all of this makes me wonder, could Dr. Wen be wavering in her pro-choice convictions? I mean, even beyond the miscarriage, a change of career like this, being terminated, can really make you rethink everything. Now, I don't know that, and I have no way of knowing. What I do know is that Jesus sometimes shows up in dramatic fashion, and that no one is beyond his reach or the prayers of his people. And so that's what I'm praying, that Dr. Wen will meet Jesus, find his grace, and become a champion of life. As Planned Parenthood doubles down on its abortion extremism and political activism, would you also commit to double down on prayer? Prayer that this evil organization and its evil practices would come to an end, and that Dr. Leana Wen would find a new beginning? For Breakpoint, I'm John Stonestreet.